Welcome to everyone. My name is Joe Reichel, and I will be co-coordinating with Kathy, who is sitting beside me. And we really feel blessed to be among you all and sharing your worship and your Sunday. May all who enter this space feel safe, seen, and heard. We have a few announcements before we move on, and our minister, Leon, as I said, will be just a few minutes late. Just a gentle reminder, if you could all turn off anything that beeps, bings, or will ring today. And we also have, for anyone who needs it, large print of the order of service in the back, as well as hearing assistance, headphones in the back as well. In today's reflection, our minister, Leon Dunkley, will be exploring faith in a fearful time. The few announcements we have is one that's the bittersweet down in our social hall after service. We'll be celebrating and sending a long-standing member of our congregation, Ann Dean, who will be moving to Maine this week. Ann's played a huge part in this chapel, and obviously she'll be sorely missed by me and many others. This afternoon at 2 p.m., there will be chamber music in the sanctuary, and it will be with piano trio Gaia, which is violin, piano, and cello music. Listening to Our Lives will be meeting Wednesday the 13th at 3:30 p.m. in the Pollers, and there will be a fun and festive dancing at the Little Theater this coming Saturday the 16th from 6 to 9 p.m. There's going to be a eclectic collection of music and dancing, so that'll be good times. There will be a celebration of life for Wayne Thompson on Sunday, November 17th, 12:30 p.m. here at North Chapel. And to keep up on what's going on, there are more items in the order of service, as well as our newsletter, In Touch. For anyone who's joining us today that is our guest, we welcome you all, and if you could sign our guest book in the back, we truly appreciate it. And if anyone wants to just stand up and introduce yourself, we would really love the opportunity to welcome you among us. The origins of these opening words began with a sticker I had on my water bottle that said, "Don't believe everything that you think." And that's a lot easier said than done. And luckily, recently, I came across this book that says, "Don't Believe Everything You Think" is the title. Why Your Thinking is the Beginning and the End of Suffering, by Joseph Neon. The absence of thinking is the presence of peace. Joseph Neon. As humans, we have evolved with sophisticated ability to think, rationalize, and analyze. These abilities are the key to our survival. It's the mind's job to alert us to potential dangers in our environment that may threaten our lives. The mind does a most excellent job of scanning our surroundings for immediate threats. The mind also references past experiences to create predictions of possible dangers in the future. And the thing is, these memories aren't 100% truth. While the mind does an incredible job keeping us alive, these same abilities do not allow us to thrive. Something helpful to keep the mind in check is knowing the difference between thoughts versus thinking. Thoughts are raw, energetic, mental materials that our minds use to understand and navigate the world. Thoughts are neutral observations, insights, or intuitive promptings that pop into our minds. We cannot always control what thoughts come to mind. Thinking, on the other hand, is judgment and opinions we have about our thoughts. We can make the decision not to dwell on each thought as it enters our mind. Yet, when we do dwell on a thought we are thinking, it's not usually unicorns and sunshine. Take, for instance, this situation. It's raining. Our thought could be as simple as, "It's raining." Our thinking, however, is usually the human response of, "This really stinks. I had plans today. Why does this always happen to me?" Another scarier situation of losing your job or losing a relationship creates the thought, I lost my job, I lost my mate. This could create triggering thinking of, I'm not good enough, everyone is judging me, I'll never recover from this. Luckily, one of the greatest powers we possess is the power of choice. The choice to go negative, to be positive, or to just sit with how we're feeling. We could think, wow, my garden is going to love this rain. The rain is making me sad. Or, we are good enough. No one is judging us. Most people are grateful they didn't experience this loss. Or, I'm going to give myself a few days to feel this loss and then do my best to regain my footing. Another way to recall the distinction between thoughts and thinking is to remember that thought is a noun. It is something we have. Thinking is a verb, is something we do. Thinking is the act of engaging with our thoughts. Thoughts are intrinsically neutral. The moment we begin thinking about our thoughts, we can get taken on an emotional roller coaster. While decreasing our thinking is the key to reducing our suffering, our goal isn't necessarily to stop feeling negative emotions altogether. Some fear or negative emotions are helpful, such as the fear we feel when walking alone down a dark alley, or the unhappiness that is letting us know when it's time to leave a relationship that no longer serves us. These emotions serve as guidance to help create better environments for nurturing our health, growth, and well-being. However, when there is no immediate threat to our survival, dwelling in a state of fear or negativity is more harmful than helpful. Our goal is to decrease the amount of time it takes for us to regulate our emotions and return to a state of peace when we experience the pressures of life. As Jonathan Safran Foer, an American novelist, once wrote, I think, and I think, and think. I thought myself out of happiness 1,000,000 times, yet never once into it. May we experience balance in and awareness of our thinking. Thank you.
Good morning and good Sunday. I hope that this new day finds you well. Welcome, everyone. All souls can find a place within this house. All souls. No exceptions. Welcome to the dreamers and seekers of spirit, wanderers and worshipers. Welcome to the open and the broken ones among us. Blissfully imperfect, blessed and beloved beneath the stars above, given in care and compassion for one another, soul level deep, in good times and in tempest, in conflict and in consensus, held whole and honored by a love that knows no bounds. To all souls I say, good morning. It's good to be together. Today is Sunday, November the 10th, And the title of this morning's reflection is Daddy, Did You Vote for the Girl? This title comes not from me, but from someone much older and wiser than me. It comes from one of the great sages of Woodstock, and you may know her. A great sage who is old like the trees of Woodstock, even older than the trees, but younger than the mountains, and rolling like a breeze on a country road not long before winter, tucked in and tender, safe and secure, gentle and wise. To all souls I say, and to all sages I say, sages of all ages, good morning. It's good to be together. I had no idea what I was going to say this morning. I fretted about it all night. I fretted about it all week. But I've chosen just a couple of stories, and I'll relay them to you quickly. The first story is a story of serendipity. But before I tell it, I want to just share with you this experience that I had in Greenbelt, Maryland. Greenbelt, Maryland is just inside of 495, inside of the Beltway, as they say, in Washington, D.C. So D.C. is clearly the driving center of the culture there. Franklin apartments were built. They were New Deal apartments. They were created out of FDR, in the time of FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to create housing that would be available and suitable for lower income people. I had moved from wherever I was. I don't really remember. I can't keep track. But I had moved to Maryland, and I was seeking an apartment that I could store my kayak in, because I had a big, long kayak, and the only one that I could find that had a window on the ground that I could throw the kayak into the apartment was Franklin Apartments. I was very happy to be there. It was built on this campus in the 50s, probably, 40s, in the 50s, and at the time, African Americans were excluded. They could not they could not live on that property. There was a segregated environment. So this FDR New Deal program that was built for low-income workers excluded African Americans at the time. That history still lives there. It changed over time, of course, but that history still lives there. It's still a scar, it's still a wound. And you can see it in the behavior of the people, especially the kids, who on their way to school would throw their candy wrappers and their failed papers or whatever they didn't want on the ground, detritus, they would just litter on their way home. I did a little social experiment. I ended up cleaning the area right in front of my own home, perfectly clean. I rid it of all the garbage. It took a couple of weeks. And the kids noticed me doing that, and it was not taken kindly. It made them feel anxious, reflecting on their own non-desire to clean up their own space. It's kind of painful and it's ironic, but you have to just push through that feeling a little bit. So I kept cleaning it, and the students were actually kind enough to redeliver the garbage that I was removing. So on the daily, on their way to school, they would redeposit the candy wrappers and the empty soda cans on the lot that I was keeping clean. After a while, I would just keep cleaning it, and I'd start to build these small cairns. Do you know what a cairn is? Like a little pile of stones. Not high, 2 feet high. And on the daily, again, on their way to school, the kids would come by and knock over the cairn, and every night I would put them back up again, and the kids would knock them over, and I'd put them back up again. This went on for days and weeks and months. And then I had a project one day, it was sort of in the spring, summer time. I was at my desk for 2 days straight. I didn't get a chance to go out and rebuild the cairn, which I did nightly. So the following morning, after the cairn wasn't rebuilt, the kids were kind of gathered around the pile of stones, and they were looking at them as if there was something wrong with the stones. And I laughed. I laughed at them, and they went off to school, and then they came back, and the stones were still not moved. I was just finishing up the project at that time. And I lived on the ground floor by a sliding glass window that was covered with these floor-to-ceiling blinds, those kind of Venetian blinds. I don't know what kind of blinds they are. And I had them sort of half open so I could let in the light of the sun, but half closed so I could keep the light off of the from glaring on my computer screen. And I looked out, and the kids were gathered around the stones again. And then they pointed at my apartment, because one of them knew that it was me that was putting up the stones all the time. So one of them, I don't know if it was the bravest one or the least fortunate one, started to make this sort of humble trek over to the house, kind of peering in to see what they could find out about the guy who kept putting up the stones. Now the light was such that it was dark in my house and very bright outside. So that means that the glass of the sliding glass door behaved like a mirror. Okay. And I watched him kind of brazenly kind of walking up closer and closer and closer and closer. And I didn't move. I just sat there and watched. I wondered how close he was gonna come. And then he finally, put his hands over his eyes like a visor and then leaned right up against the glass. And that's when I knew I really had him. So he was looking in, a little bit, and then I just quickly moved and waved and said hello. Oh my God. I wish I had a picture of that face. It was "Wah!" Just jumped out of his socks and he ran away to his friends and never heard from him again. And the next day, when I did get a chance, that night, when I did get a chance, I went back out and I rebuilt the cairn. And sure as it can be, the next morning the kids came by and they kicked it over on their way to school. And then I picked it up again and they kicked it over again. But they weren't leaving garbage on that lawn anymore. We grow old, we move forward by inches. So stay open to hope, stay open to possibility, stay open to serendipity. And with that, I want to ask my friend Mike Calabrese to come up and say a little bit about serendipity. Mike?
How you doing? I'm Mike. This is Russell down here. He's gonna hide for a little bit. Yeah, I've been in this community with my family, my wife and 2 kids for going on 3 years. And I've played music a bunch with Leon, and that's how I know him. And so the day after the election, I'm walking through downtown, and I hear a "hey," and it's Leon with his window rolled down, and he points to the curb, and I meet him over there. He gets out of his car, and we give each other a bear hug that lasts for, what people might think was suspiciously long. And I said, "Leon, what's going on, man?" And he said, "A lot." And I said, "I need to come to church." And he said, "Okay, but you gotta push me." And I didn't understand what he meant. And he said, coming here is about comfort, but it's also about community. We can comfort each other, but we can also change things. And so I shared this picture with him. It's on your pamphlets. My daughter Tilly drew it. And election day, we brought our kids to vote before school. And later that day, they took a class trip to go vote themselves. And then after dinner that night, we're doing some drawing, and she's learning how to draw and to write. And she asked me how to spell Kamala's name. And I said, "You should put an exclamation point after it." And she mistakenly wrote a question mark. And my heart sank. And I was like, this feels bad. But the kids asked good questions that day. Russ asked, "Daddy, what does voting mean to me?" Which is a pretty good question to ask. And then Tilly asked me, "Daddy, did you vote for the girl?" And after my heart broke a little bit, I realized there was a double meaning, of course. There's the vote for the candidate, and there's the vote for her that she was asking about. And then selfishly, I'm a musician, so I'm legally obligated to turn every double meaning into a song lyric. And so that's what I started to do in my head. And I think Leon realized that too. And he said, "Hey, can I use that?" And I said, "Sure, but how?" And he said something to the effect of, Excellent leadership requires us to think about what is best for her well-being. And I couldn't agree more. And, when she asked me that question, she was not asking my political affiliation. I think she was asking something in her body. I think she was asking me if I saw her and if I supported her. And I think she was pushing me, as we should push all leaders. And so Leon invited me here today to push him, and because he was literally asking for it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Russell. And thank you, Tilly. I want to close with an explanation about the axe. I'm a big fan of axes. When I moved to North Carolina, I chopped down a lot of wood and, chopped it up with a chainsaw, let it sit for a year, and then I chopped it up with that axe, actually. The only problem was I was reading this book about called Zen and the Art of Archery, that talks about your breathing technique, and that the breath should animate your movement. So breathing in when you're drawing the bow and letting out with no anticipation of the results. It's a beautiful theological, spiritual exercise. So I tried to chop a cord of wood, doing that with my body, breathing in and chopping down and breathing in and chopping down. And I overextended every muscle in my ribcage. I couldn't move the following morning. It was pretty brutal. So I learned that the only axe that I'm going to swing for that long a time will be the axe that has 6 strings on it. Not the axe like that. But Franz Kafka said that an axe should be the thing that we use to cleave the frozen sea within us. An axe, he was talking about art, by the way. An axe is the thing that cleaves the frozen sea within us. For all of us who are tempted to isolate, to sort of shrink down, to sort of pull away right now, I really invite us, I implore us to bring our imperfections and our tears and our inadequacy and our trivial beingness, our beautifulness together. The closing quote comes from a woman named Rebecca Solnit. Rebecca writes, "Hope is not a lottery ticket that you sit on the sofa and clutch, feeling lucky. It is an axe that you break down doors with in an emergency. Hope should shove you out of the door because it will take everything you have to steer the future away from endless war, from the annihilation of the earth's treasures, and the grinding down of the poor and the marginal. To hope is to give yourself to the future. And that commitment to the future is what makes the present inhabitable." Thank you, genuinely. Thank you for your hope. If you look beneath your sorrow and your tears, hope lingers right there. Hold it close. Keep it with you.